I'd like to call it to order Water Sewer Commissioners meeting of November 9th. Before we start,
5:36.
was that?
5:36.
What did I say?
6:36.
Oh, I see. We moved back.
We gotta reset.
Yeah, I got to reset. All right, for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
All right, we'll get right into it. Superintendents Updates.
Do you mind if we defer to Tara first?
Sure, absolutely. Tara, you with us?
I am, thank you. Okay, so there's not too many updates on my end actually this week. We have been starting back up with the emergency response plan for the town. That is due by the end of December. We've completed most of the work based on the risk and resiliency information and the cybersecurity information we worked with Frank and his department on previously. So the next steps are just really scheduling a meeting to just review what we've done, go through a few of our final questions, and then wrap that up and submit that. There was an optional training, and we can certainly discuss that for something after the holidays, but there is a potential opportunity there to just do some training for the staff
like a tabletop?
Yeah, just kind of just something simple to just go through the emergency response plan. It's kind of a hefty document, just so that everybody's aware what's included, and just talk through that. But that was an optional service on our contract, so we can take a look at the final costs of the project and see if you guys want to go forward with the next step. But again, we won't be finishing up the report till probably mid-December or so. We can revisit that then.
Okay.
But good news, yep, that's, pretty much, I'd say we're about 75% done with that, and just need some fine tuning and some questions to be answered from Frank and John, and could wrap that up pretty quickly. And then let's see, so as far as the well work, I think at the last meeting, we indicated that the application is submitted into DEP. We're going to probably check in with them another week or so just to see where we are on the list and if they've gotten a chance to start looking at it. But the Southeast region is usually pretty good about getting permits reviewed in a timely manner and getting the responses back. So we are hoping to hear in the next month or so. They have a total of 72 days to do that, but we have seen in the past that they've done a little bit faster review time. And then we'll wrap that up and get it ready for bidding. Once we have the permits in hand and no issues there, if we need to make any updates, we'll do that certainly to the plans and specs. Working a little bit with Frank on ARPA and setting up projects, American, just the federal funding. There's monies that's come into directly to the town as well as the county. So we're kind of waiting to confirm some of the potential future funds. But the good news is that the infrastructure bill was passed over the weekend, and there should be some additional funds that might be able to come through to communities for water, sewer, and transportation and other infrastructure needs. So good news on that front for potentially free money. So less impacts to obviously the overall customer base. So all good things for that. Well 1 and 4, we do have assigned contracts. We're working to schedule with the driller for that work to start the initial test well drilling, so we can start the initial phase for both of those projects. So that'll probably, when we chatted with them, they were about 6 weeks out. So I'm anticipating from now maybe we might be able to get started mid-December or so. We just got to check with the driller on what their holiday schedules are. I know they tend to give some time off to their guys too. So
Okay.
But for the most part, and then the other project is White Street, and we're working on the design. Survey was completed, and we're hoping to get that wrapped up in the next few weeks. Sit down with Frank and his staff to just review the design. It's about 1,100 feet, so a pretty small project, but it does bypass White Street and kind of allows for a continuation of the main on Main Street. So add some hydrants, a little bit better flow pattern, and an increase in diameter. So all good things for the water system.
Okay.
And that's I think that's pretty much it. Unless Frank, you want me to elaborate on anything else or any other topics that I might have missed?
No, I think you touched on it all. The drilling that's going to be done at 1 and 4, at least phase 1 at each location, is part of that ARPA money. That was approved, went through town manager and the town accountant. So those funds will at least cover phase 1. And once we see results from those drill locations, we'll determine the next steps at each location.
Okay, good.
So we definitely are doing our best to target and use the monies if they fit certain criteria. I know Steve and I had talked about other items as far as emergency power at some of the sewer stations that we'll be looking at attaching some of those monies to as well. And but yeah, I think that's it, Tara, on that. Just keeping the fingers and toes crossed for well 6 approval.
Yeah, that, and as much the special projects with Congressman Auchincloss, and I mean, there's a lot here that would be great for the water and sewer department. Free money is free money, so that's always great to kind of jumpstart our a lot of the capital improvements that we had already on the agenda, but just starting and kicking them off a year or 2 or 3 even earlier, which is all good news. So
Good.
keeping positive, and I'll stay on the call too. So if there's any additional questions, I'm here. So
All right, Tara, thank you.
Thanks.
all right, no problem. Thank you.
You want to get Steve out of the way? You want me to jump back in? Whatever you
Wanna go,
prefer.
Steve?
Let's do that.
All right, let's go, Steve. Let's do this different.
And maybe we'll check off some of the, because there's always overlap.
Right,
anyway.
exactly,
It'll
right.
Reduce your list this week.
That's fine.
And I don't have a lot. I don't have much more than what Tara had really. So on the ARPA money, we have I finally connected with our electrical engineers. I've got a scope together. I was going to try and email it off, but I wasn't able to get it out today. But I will get something out to you before the next meeting
Okay.
for the design, bidding assistance, and construction oversight for the 2 generators that you've been talking about, Holly Road and Knollwood. And again, that's with hopefully the ARPA money is what was targeted there. I will say that the as everyone's aware, the lead times on things, generators are just getting further and further out from what I've heard. Along those lines, for Cobb Street, we've still been back and forth with the contractor on his shop submittal for the generator. I mean, he's just trying to get us some more information. Our biggest issue was we just wanted to make sure it was going to fit. We had spec'd 175 kW generator. They submitted on a 200 kW. He explained that, and it works fine from an electrical standpoint. It's not a big deal. It's more of a space issue, and it is the same footprint, of the of what would have been a 180 kW generator. That's what the Kohler sizing is. So there was just one issue of where he had positioned one of the control panels. He was looking into moving it to the other side where it would just provide more space. So a lot of explanation about just one shop submittal, but basically as soon as he can confirm that, we'll approve it and he'll order it. And then we'll just
And it's
play
a
the way-
200 kW that we get?
It's going to be a 200 kW generator,
That's awesome.
instead of a 175. So that's really, I will say, I think I forgot to grab the contracts last time of those.
These are them.
Them. That you just reminded me again because I had already forgotten. So we talked about it last meeting, and then 2 of those I think we're supposed to.
We'll be going back with
Are
you.
those the ones we've already signed?
Yeah,
correct?
that's-
Those ones- Okay.
Those are executed, done.
Yep.
This is their copies. This is to go back, this is actually for Tara. These are copies of 1 and 4 that the town has approved, that we were just talking about, the ARPA funding.
Okay, so these are Tara. Tara, I have your contracts.
2 copies of notice to proceed, different from
Yes.
the ones that I had scanned, but still have accurate signatures.
Yep.
And then we have
Yeah,
the
so this
draft
one's-
notice
this one's
and the
on
2
this.
contracts.
Okay.
Signed, stamped.
And you guys kept the copy. You have the
Correct, we
copy.
do.
So,
Yep.
did you send one, or is this for me to send one to the electrical? I think you
That
sent
was,
it.
I believe it was sent. I would have to clarify
I'll-
with
I'll
John, because
confirm with
John
them
was
if they
covering
have.
that meeting.
Yep. Yep.
But we can verify that he has one, if not, one of those
I
would be
can
his.
send one of these
Yep.
if he doesn't have one. So that's good. So that cleans that up. Just as a heads up on On West Main Street, we got an email from the contractor. There's an old police slip from when they did when aggregate came out the final time to do to infrared and clean up the stuff that we asked them to fix. I don't think it's an issue. It's like a $200 invoice, and they said at the time that it was on them, so the police sent it to them, and somehow they kicked it to Rockio, and so Rockio's like, what's going on? And right now the correspondence back is, yeah, aggregate's gonna take care of that. If it comes back, if the police call you and say, hey, we've got this outstanding invoice,
Right.
that's what's going on, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think aggregate's gonna blink at it, I just don't, they didn't remember. But if push comes to shove, we'll just make sure it gets taken care of. So that's all I have on that. We talked a little bit, so I've got Fran on the case trying to help me a little bit with this connection fee. I'm not really ready to give an update on that, because, so last time we talked about, what it's gonna take to modify it. Is a simple go to the commission, do you need to do a rate study, and we get into that whole rates versus fees. I mean, the long and short of it, I do think this is a fee and you don't need a rate study for it, but it's a little complicated because there was a study done before to establish your rate, the $35 rate, which you then used to establish the fee. You used the rate
Right.
to establish the fee.
Okay.
So that's where
Yeah,
the confusion lies.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the bottom of that. I also, I found some old emails. Also appeared, and I don't think there was much, but there was a vote years back. There was a public hearing and at a commission, within a commission meeting to update the sewer regs. And the current version that Rose has, that you guys have, that we have, is dated 2010. That meeting was 2015. I think it updated the 2 years to 5 years.
That would have been right around the time that they had that.
And I just don't know that the regs themselves
If
ever
I-
got
Yeah.
physically updated
Okay.
based on that vote. And it was also in conjunction with the MFN. Everybody had to make an update to their rules and regs. Or was it the land use controls, or there was some clause that needed to go into the regs. So like I said, I've got some old emails. We could probably find it from the minutes of the meetings back at that time. But I think there were just a couple of updates that were supposed to be made, that were voted and approved, and they're just not in writing in the written.
What was the calendar year you'd be looking for the meetings?
Like I said, I have the emails, but I think it was 2015.
Yeah, that would make sense. I think that's when it changed to the 5.
There's 1 year, it's either 2015 or 16, where there's no minutes on the website at least. There's like the last 3 meetings of the year, and the whole year
Bernie.
is there.
Maybe I'm gonna call Luke.
Well, if we can find a cassette recorder, I think there's probably.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah, there was a lag. There was some issues for a little while there for the minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if we can narrow down the time frame, we can definitely go through what we have here on
Yeah.
record here.
And I can probably find, what I noticed in the emails is there were a bunch of suggested things to talk about. And this was between Fran and Luke was the email chain. And I think Bernie was on the email chain too, but I'm just not sure. I think the only things, my guess is the only things that ended up being discussed and voted on were probably the land use controls and the time frame, which needs to be changed again
Right.
anyway at this point.
Yeah.
Based on the recent vote. But maybe as part of that, it'd be time to revisit.
Be time to do it all,
The
yeah.
connection fee. So that's why I bring it
So
up
you think,
while we're doing that.
you think we'll need to hire that company to come in again?
No, I don't.
So we could probably handle this on our.
I don't
on
think
our
that
end?
right now,
Okay.
you know. And I think within your regs, you have the ability to modify it.
And that was basically exactly the conversation I had with Rose, which we only have her until the end of December. But her memory is excellent, especially with certain things like that she was involved with at the time. She felt the same way, that it was controlled by the board. There was the required public meeting, or public forum, whatever wording she used for it.
Yep.
But
Yeah, the hearing.
it didn't require a special location. It was done during a board meeting. The chair called, the special meeting or
You open a hearing.
Yeah, there was a procedure to
It's a formal
it.
hearing that
Yeah.
gets published, and then
Sounded
after
pretty
the
basic.
hearing closes, there's a time frame that people can
Mm-hmm.
comment if, it doesn't become immediately effective. I think
Right.
there's a-
So we
That's
could do
just to
that,
vote the changes in.
That's
Have a
just-
hearing, you open the hearing. you-
but that's at a general meeting. We don't have to do that at the, like the
within
library like
within a
we did
sewer
before.
commission meeting. No,
Oh, was
that was a public outreach hearing, yeah. It's still a public hearing, but yeah, that was more to get, broader information out. to the
Okay,
public.
all right.
I mean, I believe it's open to the general public.
Everything is, all your meetings are anyway, it's
Right.
just on your agenda, you show a public hearing within your public meeting. You open it,
I know, we used to be most,
comments,
we used to be most watched TV. We're not anymore. We're down in the,
Yeah, I remember the
Dialogue.
library, we chose that location anticipating a lot of participants.
which we did.
Yeah.
We had a good,
We did.
good group there,
Yeah.
and a lot of good questions, and I love to see that people come out. That's,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely obviously support quite a few people in this room, but nowhere near as much as the library or
right.
the cafeteria
right.
or something.
Well, if we're gonna expect anything more than 15 people, then we
We'll
really,
want somewhere
yeah.
else, right.
Right, so I think that's.
Cool. All right. Boy, that was awful short and sweet, both of you guys.
Yeah,
All right. If you're okay, I'll pick up from there.
absolutely, yes, sir.
All right. So we're gonna jump all the way back to a wonderful nor'easter that we had. And we did suffer some damage down at the treatment facility, of all places. The primary feeds going to the building were taken down and actually melted, of course, to the ground. We were able to, make the day and make the couple days that we were out running off the generator.
We have overhead stuff up there?
We do.
No. Why didn't we put that in the ground?
Because it was existing going to well 4. So they
Oh,
tagged
gotcha.
off of the existing
Okay, yep,
3-phase that
yep.
was there.
Yeah, no, I know,
It's
just
definitely
curious.
something we may look at in the future,
Yep.
because
Is that something we can do?
I don't know if the grid would allow us to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Or hire a subcontractor to do it.
I know
it becomes
we
a-
couldn't.
Right.
We had to get
Wait,
a,
to do what? To put it on the ground?
just to,
Yeah.
yeah, just put in conduit. We have to have a pipe layers,
Right.
in our town, yeah.
Right, which, for the most part, is well worth it, but
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you
yeah.
also have to look at the option, how often you see damage to those lines.
Yeah.
They are repaired rather quickly.
Yep.
Is the cost really warranted when you have a great generator that's there doing its job? Those generators, the bigger they are, they're made to run. We've actually been contacted by National Grid to see if we were interested in backfeeding the town with our generator during off-peak season and stuff like that, something that still not really comfortable with. I don't know if we want to put the wear and tear on that unit.
I'm not either.
It's not,
It's-
I guess I understand where they're coming from and that we could see monies generated back to the town just like a solar
Yeah,
panel would be,
But
but
you know what,
I'm
the
not,
wear and tear, and
That's
those
my
things are
concern.
big bucks.
Yeah.
Those are,
right, is it worse to let them sit there and not run, or is it worse to let them run for hours and hours? I mean,
yeah. They run online for, every week, right?
They do.
Yeah.
Yep, they transfer. Yeah, I mean, so we had multiple areas in town that were affected. We do have a priority line that we have to National Grid during outages. So we were stepped up, whatever, level 1, level 2, whatever it was. The issue was they couldn't get to us because of other trees that were down. So
Sure.
they worked their way to us. We worked our way in, cut the road back as much as we could, anything that wasn't on the power lines. Anything that we could get our backhoe underneath and around, we opened up. We actually had to open up King Philip Road. We have the emergency access
Yeah.
that goes beside the town forest, because trees actually come down on King Philip and totally block the last remaining section of road there. So fire apparatus and emergency personnel couldn't get through. So we opened that up and we actually maintained the road for a couple days, because unfortunately, you're driving through a forest, it gets real soupy. And, little cars and stuff really not designed to go through there, so we dropped a couple truckloads of gravel, tuned it up as best we could, and, we were able to keep it open, people were able to get in and out. We did get one call or 2 calls, I can't remember how many. 2 that actually I was here for, I think another one may have come in, so maybe 3 calls. The questions were, they weren't able to flush their toilets on King Philip, but this is because they all have E1 pumps.
Right.
So in years past, and I remember this from my time being on the street crew, when we had a major outage, I think we were out for days in that section there, the previous superintendent actually had the sewer crew go out and hook up a generator with an electrician to everybody's E1 pump. And I think that's still anticipated that that's gonna happen. So we in the most polite way, you know, express to the people that that's unfortunately not on us. You know, if you have, you know, requirements that you have equipment that takes electricity, you really should be handling that, you know, on your own. If we had the
That's a big
availability,
responsibility.
that's a huge
That's big
responsibility.
And that's a
responsibility.
separate cord going to everybody's house for.
Right, basically, what had happened is we actually went out with a contracted electrician, disconnected each person's leads to their E1 pump,
Yep.
connected the generator to it, pumped it down, discharged all their waste from their holding vessel, and moved on to the next one. There was a ton of money involved, a ton of overtime involved. You know, it was a good faith effort, knowing that the power was gonna be off for a very long period of time.
Because it's gravity from the toilet to the tank before the pump?
Yep. Yep,
So if you
everything
empty
goes
the
in.
tank, then they can do it until
Then,
it fills again.
exactly. So we recommended that they obviously, cut back on their water usage. Definitely any showers or anything that was gonna create an issue going to their holding vessel. The other thing that I was unaware of, and I was educated on this during this event, surprisingly or not, the E1 pumps don't have a battery backup system on the high-level alarm. That's powered by 110 power.
Ooh,
So nobody would even know
wow.
that you have a high level if you didn't have power.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems to me with today's technology, that would have been a simple thing, but I mean, Steve could probably bring.
It's an extra feature, it's
Okay.
not standard on their,
Yep.
on the unit. So
Okay.
you gotta check that box.
Mhm.
As
So
an
that's-
extra. And I,
Do people know about this
I do not
option?
know.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I assumed it would have been a great option. I didn't know if it was available, or if it was an option, like Steve mentions, but, I'd have to say, moving forward, we'd have to recommend that people look at that, you know. Again, it's only gonna be as viable as, you know, changing the battery in your smoke detector. If you don't
But-
keep up with your battery backup,
Is that something we could reach out on some sort of, and to inform these people, just to give them that information?
I definitely think we.
I'm not talking about knocking on doors, I'm
Right,
just.
no, I think we could send letters to the people. I just don't know if there's a retrofit that
I
could
think
be
there
done.
is. I think they can add a battery backup for the high level alarm.
Because it would make
Yeah.
sense that you'd have some type of technology to let you know what your level is in the tank,
Yeah.
you know, during an outage.
That'd scare me.
Yeah, I was very surprised that, you know, it wasn't a standard feature with that type of unit. But, yeah, something that, like I said, I learned quickly on that it wasn't an option. Because that was one of the first things I had spoken with a person on the phone. I said, well, is your light on? Is your alarm going off? Do you know if it works? I mean, oh, it works. We know when we had the backup down there that it went off when you guys had shut the main down and told us you were gonna shut it down to do your repairs. You know, but it's not on now. Well, it's because there's no 110 power. So,
Yeah.
How many,
definitely a disconnect
How
there.
many homes are on King Philip? That are connected?
I couldn't even begin to guess.
Diane would know.
She probably would.
Seems like that's a lot of tanks to go out there with a generator.
It took some time, yeah, it definitely took some time to do it. I don't recall what the situation was, why we were out of power for so long in that area, whether it was a storm or a traffic accident that took out a transformer over near the Winnicott Station. There was some major event that affected just that area. I'm sure the sewer technician would recall if I had asked him about it, but it really wasn't the area of focus, and it was more of just an extra concern, you know,
Yep.
that the residents don't have any knowledge, especially if they just purchased a house. You know, they don't understand the whole workings of the system, and that
Yeah,
there is
absolutely.
no backup there. You know, it wouldn't obviously run the pump, but, you know, you get an alarm, you know something's going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll have to see if we can work up some type of letter to make sure the people are aware
Yep.
that they have limitations with their system.
I mean, that'd be
Yeah.
a good informative, something for the people that, like I said, people buying the house may not even know.
And if there is an option for somebody to do some type of retrofit kit, like you had mentioned, maybe cheap money for peace of mind. I mean,
Worst case, that'll make them more aware, and hopefully they'll be able to. Because that's definitely something that's serious concern.
definitely. So King Philip was cleared. I believe it was the second day that was opened back up. As far as the wastewater side of things, we did have a few stations that were out. The Grove area again was an area that was hit particularly hard.
Yeah.
Brings us back to the Holly Road discussion that was just mentioned about a permanent generator installed at that location. It's great that we have the tow behind to pull out there and plug into that location. It's only as good as it works until a tree comes down on it or
So ultimately,
something happens.
we're in good shape, even though with these things, nothing.
As bad as these were, it really wasn't that bad. We were able to manage. We switched everything over to emergency power the following morning of the storm because we had brownouts coming and going.
Yeah.
We had power tripping on and off, and then for the crews to work on some of the lines, they had to disconnect the power. So we weren't happy with the wells banging in and out. Line power to generator power. So we went just purposely, once we could gain access, with the light of the next morning, we switched everything over manually until we felt confident that we could switch back without any issues. But all in all, we did all right. The office here, unfortunately, is a whole different person to deal with. Our computer system is tied into the town hall. We have a fiber optic server that we have the backup for here. If both locations aren't working, it creates issues that you lose your phone, your internet, your Wi-Fi, and any computer access.
I think we went through this before.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we talked about this before.
So we have a small pigtail that's installed out here that we can run the generator off of. It cannot run the entire building. So with the addition of the assistant's office and other things that have been done, there's larger battery backups that were installed on the fiber optic system. Once they were down for a while, to try and charge those batteries and run everything else here, the generator was struggling.
So ultimately, is there anything that we could do in the future to get this whole place up and running with one? I mean, we talking a big.
One generator unfortunately won't do it. I look into, I got a couple calls out, and as Steve had mentioned, you're barely hearing back from people because they can't provide you with the service. So
Right.
they feel horrible calling you back and just keep putting you off.
Yeah.
So the delays in the response time I see, is part of that reason. So I have a call into South Shore Generator, who actually installed the generator at our center elevated tank.
Okay.
Rather pretty small generator, runs on off of propane. So I wanted to have them come out, do a visit of this location, pull some amp draws off the box and see what
Yep.
we actually have here. If we could connect it and use the existing propane tanks that we have, that we use to supply heat here, I put a permanently mounted one here, automatic transfer switch, and have no issues. The garage is separate from this building. So the electricity doesn't come through here to the garage, it's a whole separate line. So we'd actually have to do a
It's got its own
temporary
meter and everything?
Own meter and everything,
Okay.
because that was here prior to this building.
Okay.
So if we could switch the pigtail that we have here to that location with our electrician, at least we'd be able to open the garage doors and get our vehicles out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy enough to do.
So there's multiple challenges here, and we've seen, unfortunately, the storms getting a little bit stronger. The outages lasting a little bit longer. Stuff that it's time to step up. So I'm gonna get some quotes, see what the numbers are. Worst case scenario, we could even look at two portable generators that are bigger than the one we have now, size it accordingly to run this place. But I think an automatic transfer here, is the best option. The biggest thing, like I said, we lose the phones, we lose the computers, we lose our two-way radios. I mean, it's all of our lifelines go down just because this building doesn't have permanent
Yeah.
backup power. So it's time to spend a little bit of money, if it's not crazy, and
Well, once we build our new building, we could incorporate it all.
we could do that. So. well 3. I think John might have mentioned at the last meeting, we did receive our letter to install the 4-log
Yeah.
pipe work.
Yep, we talked about that,
three.
yep.
So we actually started that beginning of last week.
The piping?
Yep.
Yep.
So we cut out an 8-foot section of the 8-inch ductile iron water pipe that's there, leaving the existing well 3 now, going out to Newland Street. Replace it with a mongrel assembly of T's and valves, so that we can get the 2 T's heading towards the direction away from the plant, so we can go and make the loop. So to achieve the 4-log, we actually got to install 220 foot of 12-inch pipe in a loop fashion. So the existing main comes out of the building, we cut into it, we put 2 T's in, hydrant assemblies, and we're going to run down the side and make the connection. That way there, when we close the valve in the middle, the water will come out, go through this new pipe, back around, and then continue back out to the main road. The contact time with the disinfection is what will achieve the 4-log, which is basically ultimate virus removal with chlorine disinfection. We're also going to cut in a new fire hydrant, which we don't have one close to the building at this location, so it'll give us the opportunity to actually back flush from the street a water main that's only seen water go one way for a number of quite a few years.
Yep.
It's probably 12 or 15 years ago that Derek and I actually physically removed the check valve inside the building and put a spool piece in and back flushed the main through the building out through the blow-off valve on the side of the building. And it was beneficial at the time, but it's not an easy process.
So that's been flowing the same direction the whole time?
Right.
Do you anticipate any problems if you?
There will be layers of
Like initially?
iron and manganese that will come out just from natural deposits that are in the main. You had a call you missed there, Steve. So by going backwards, it'll remove some of those deposits,
Thank you.
and it'll be a benefit also when we do our regular flushing program. We can pull the water in from the street and clean it up that way. So there's multiple benefits to it, but obviously, as things would typically happen in Norton fashion.
Do you have to set up chemical injection inside the plant too?
No, everything's in place.
Everything's gonna
and
be-
the analyzers are in place. We
Okay.
had done those many years ago. That was a huge expense.
Yep.
So we have the lockout capabilities there based on chlorine residual over time. So once this is in, Tara is going to be on site taking some additional pictures on top of the ones that I've sent her. We have as-built, we'll send that all off to DEP for approval, and we should just be with another letter approved, that we meet 4-log conditions, and it gives us a lot more options and a lot more flexibility to use that well.
Yep.
And kind of push it to its max if we had to. If for some reason we had another well offline we had to clean, this location we can turn it up a little bit more, and it just gives us peace of mind knowing that anything leaving that well is clean and disinfected.
That's good. That's good.
So as we were trying to get this pipe installed, it seems Murphy shows up as typical Norton fashion. Each time we've been able to get a length of pipe or a fitting installed, we've had to go somewhere else and pull the backhoe and the crew out of there. 2 different service calls, 2 different shutoffs, of course, both broken and required excavation. And then on top of that, today, as the alert went out, unfortunately, a pipe failure, so the guys are actually still out there now. So we're going to pick away at it. 220 feet of 12-inch takes a little while to put in. We're going to try and do it with our own backhoe. If we get into a confined area at the end where it's getting kind of tight, there's an existing fence and there's some wetland boundaries there, we may have to rent an excavator for a day or 2, just so we have the reach and swing capabilities to take care of it. But we're going to do our best to keep it in-house. The second round of notifications were actually mailed out to the commercial property owners about the flow testing requirements for sprinkler tests.
Okay.
We know there's still a few companies out there that are performing the old way without coordinating with the department. Thankfully, with the treatment facility being online, we don't see the impacts as we used to. But we still know it's there and it's still unaccounted for water. We want to make sure we're in control of it. John actually tweaked the letter a little bit, reminding the owners, that ultimately they're responsible for anybody that performs work on their structure, whether it be fire, whether it be a backflow, anything like that. So, to avoid potential fines, we want them to make sure that they're aware and that they make their fire suppression companies aware, of the rules and regulations. They've been in place for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
It's to the point where, we have to start enforcing some of these rules, and this is the first one that we've chose to really enforce. And as this one, settles into a groove, we're gonna move on and look at some of the other ones, that might have been lax over the past few years. All in, making sure that the water is safe and that it's all accounted for. So we actually do have 3 tests that are scheduled. 2 smaller tests, which usually are little or no impact. One is on Old Colony Road on November 16th. Another one is November 30th at 108 West Main Street. And then we have a larger test that needs to be performed at the CFS building. That's up on East Main Street near the Easton Town line.
Okay.
This is an actual fire pump test. This is a big pump. So this one has the potential for impact. So there will be posting in the Sun Chronicle, there will be posting on the websites.
They do the posting, correct?
They do the posting,
Okay.
yep. So that one right now we know is, their wish list has it in for November 17th, which I believe is a Wednesday. But we don't have a time locked in for it yet. So we don't want to get any closer to Thanksgiving. We want to leave us plenty of time to clean it up if it does cause a disturbance, which we don't have the crystal ball to say if it's going to, but we definitely want to leave the window of opportunity there that we can clean something up if it does happen. But they're required by the Norton Fire Department and the building insurance companies. It's something that we can't just not allow. So we work with them. And
When is that one?
November 17th is the date that they're looking for. Like I said, we'll lock down a time. And
This next week.
Week from tomorrow.
It is. Yeah,
Right.
it's about a week away.
Yep.
So the 2 smaller tests I don't think will be impactful at all. One location we've done more than once already. They do a quarterly test there.
What's the Old Colony location?
Old Colony is actually a daycare. That is 366
Oh,
Old
that's
Colony, I
right.
believe.
Right
it's
behind us, yeah,
Right,
I know.
right near you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Right across from Mac and Waltz.
Yes, actually. All right. Actually, received an email. I believe I CC'd you guys on copies of it from the gentleman who presented Island Brook.
Yes, I saw that.
It appeared he was under the impression he was waiting on us, and we're actually waiting on him.
Yeah, that's what it sounded
Yeah,
like.
the plans that were presented that night, unfortunately, aren't even close to being accurate.
No, he knows, and we,
Yeah,
and we,
we
yeah.
talked
I
about
remember
it.
leaving it that way. The next step is he has to update that before we
Right. So,
and find out about the
about the sewer connections. So it's back in his court. Hopefully we will hear from him, maybe see an updated set of plans on that, and maybe a letter seeing if he has approval to connect, or if he's gonna go, as James had pointed out, that lower back corner of the property and completely stay off of 123, which would be a great option, but.
For him and everybody involved.
Oh, for everybody.
Yeah.
I know other engineers and other developers have asked in the past to approve a portion of the plans, whether it be the water portion, and we'll come back at the sewer.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable with it, but it's ultimately a board decision, just because there's so many possibilities that the water infrastructure may have to change if he doesn't get the sewer that he wants. That's,
Yeah.
we know there's time restraints here also, so, I mean, we're gonna work with him as best we can. But we can't do anything with what he presented to us that night, so hopefully, he keeps moving forward.
So he knows that the ball's kind of in his court, then, okay.
Yeah. If I didn't CC you in that email, I'll definitely forward it to you, so you at least have it. You can see exactly the correspondence, how we responded to him. Another one, if you put the Wayback Cap on, is Turtle Crossing. We've heard from them. This is over off of Newland Street. It was another 40B development. This was talked about, I believe it was 2010, 2012,
I
somewhere
remember
around
this.
there.
I remember this.
It's a while ago. So they are interested in starting their project up again. It's a proposed 40B development, huge development. There's old paperwork that he had presented back from 2012 with agreed upon numbers and discounts and stuff that the board at the point.
But I mean, our that's all well and good, and it was approved back then. But if, we've come a long way. Our system is different now. I mean, we need new plans.
Yeah.
to make sure that we can support this.
Right, exactly.
And I know, as a matter of fact, I remember that was being a pretty big thing. I mean, geez.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it goes, so far back, it's before any of the developments that are
Yep.
currently there now, going to the Knollwood pump station. I explained to him, I spoke to him on the phone, and via email that, there's been so many changes that have happened since 2012 or 2010.
Yeah.
That we don't have the sewer availability to you. The water we have available to you, but the sewer is gonna require, huge, improvements in order for that station to handle any type of flow that you're looking to generate from this size development. And that would all have to be done and in place prior to the development even being built. I mean, it's one thing to start the development and obviously strip the land, but the improvements would have to be in place before they generated any type of wastewater.
Now, if they get approved for this, which they, I'm sure they did back in 2012, how long is that approval good for? If they sit on it, and we have other opportunities that come up to give that, that the sewer availability to someone else, I mean, is that?
I don't know if it's, if there's a certain time frame involved. Steve might actually have an idea about this. I'm sure
Yeah.
you were involved back then, unfortunately, as well with this.
Some meetings, yeah. But,
Fran is probably the person that would, if he was
What the
there.
timeframe is that it's good for.
I mean, our
Not this long.
regulations state, until the board approves a final set of plans. So anything that was agreed upon was based on proposed plans.
Yeah.
If those plans weren't finalized then, and we don't have a finalized copy of it, nothing that was agreed upon then should hold true. Old rates, old flows, I mean, obviously, definitely the infrastructure has changed. I mean, I don't know if that's something that needs to be looked at in the regulations, if it's there, or if it needs to be tightened up.
Who authorizes these subdivisions to fall under to be able to be a 40B? Is that a town decision, or?
They meet certain criteria for
Yep.
affordable housing.
Right, I understand that, but I thought it was once the town was over that threshold, which
You are
I
right.
think Norton is.
There is, there's a certain percentage that they allow in town. Because I
I think
remember,
it's 10%.
asking,
10%,
is it
yeah.
10?
Yeah.
I remember talking about this years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and we are now above the 10%.
That's what I'm wondering, like, does the town even have to let them do it?
Right.
If we're,
Right.
I mean, whether or not they can build a subdivision or not, but whether it falls under this 40B, if
Right. With the amount of subdivisions that we have in place or proposed, as of right now, we are above the 10%. I spoke with the Paul DiGiuseppe, the town planner. He assured me that we are over the 10%. He was going to look into the fact to see if Turtle Crossing and Island Brook as 40Bs were part of that number way back when.
Yeah.
And now they need to be
Oh, okay.
subtracted from it. If it's been a continued upgraded project, where I don't believe Turtle Crossing was, but I believe Island Brook has been, we saw the amount of revisions that they had. I would have to see a set of plans for Turtle Crossing to see if they're listed as revisions, and that they're just trying to re-up their permits.
Okay.
So there's a lot more that has to go on behind the scenes. I just want to make you aware that,
Okay.
there is interest or possible movement on that project, but, it's gonna
I
require
wouldn't think they would
substantial
count
proposed. It
proposed
doesn't
as
make
part of
sense,
that
right.
10%, because it's been a decade, and,
Again, how long does
How
it
can you
stay?
really-
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
and then we'll jump over to the last thing, talk a little bit about SIMRAC, the Southeastern Massachusetts Regional Emergency Call Center. So, back when we had Norton Communications, which we used to call 304, it was handled in-house at the police station. Any calls were directed to them. They would dispatch police, fire, highway, tree, anybody that was necessary, with a handful of dispatches that were there. The town decided it was in the best interest that they do away with that call center and move to this regional emergency call center in Foxborough that covers multiple communities. And because they have a plethora of staffing, they'd be able to handle any and all calls that are coming in. Multiple conversations went back and forth about how certain calls would be handled, everything all the way down to the loose dog call. And unfortunately, it appears we were given information that doesn't seem to be correct or isn't correct anymore. I think John might have touched on this with you guys already. So basically, it's been recommended that we find our own after-hours call center. John's working on some proposals. He's spoken to a couple different companies trying to figure out what the best option is for us. We still need the redundancy to have a list of calls handled by some type of control center, and have the dispatch or the call center call the on-call tech. We don't want to go directly to the phone. There were problems with that, and there's potential problems that could arise from that.
Yep.
And so he's definitely going to be working on. So I don't know if he sent anything over to you guys. He did have one company that he was really interested in.
He has sent us some
Yeah,
information.
the price schedule.
There's a couple of them that, one was a little more expensive, but it was still, well within, and, I just didn't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's because I think it's gonna be better for us, obviously. We can answer more calls more efficiently.
Right.
And
The pricing
certainly
was
for
a
the.
little vague or hard to understand how they, because it seemed like, yeah, they might look monthly fee, but then they were gonna charge if they had to do anything beyond answer a call.
It was like 100 and, there was like a fee for like 100 calls, and then there was a different fee for 175 calls, and how many do we average a month? I mean, I know we don't know that.
Right, but then there's per fees for if they have to dispatch that call to
Right.
somewhere else,
Right.
it's an additional
Yeah.
fee for that one particular
Yeah,
call.
so-
Which, I mean, either way, I agree, we have to do it. It's,
Well, if, do we have someone that's on call all the time anyways to answer these? So is this contractually, could we let that gentleman, or lady, take care of those calls while they're carrying the pager or the phone, as it were? Or is that gonna create, an issue?
The problem that we run into is the phone that we have for on-call also is the same phone that gives us our alarm calls from the SCADA system. So we don't want to jam up that phone
Nope.
with somebody
Yeah.
using it, to make calls.
Right.
A lengthy call if need be, is something that we're trying to avoid because, we want the alarms to come in direct and not go to voicemail. We've had issues with our voicemail system and the service here in town, unfortunately. So having this, currently we have Simrac, and we haven't, knock on wood, had many issues. There were a couple hiccups. As this goes away, we'll have to transfer to an answering service. But the opportunity that we'd have there is if the person doesn't get through the first time, they can call back. They'll be the first person speaking to somebody, gather all the information, try and verify with whoever they're speaking with that it is an actual emergency and it can't wait till the next day. And try and limit some of the nuisance calls that I think is what Simrac is upset about. So if people call here during the day and we're on the phone, it doesn't go to voicemail, it continues ringing. So people think we have the phone off the hook. And that's just the way the phone system
Right.
works here. It doesn't transfer to another line, it's an antiquated system. The best option would be is if it would go to voicemail, and then we could change our greeting.
can we update the phone system somehow?
It's a town system. It's
Okay.
the entire town that would need to have the upgrade done. So the only option we have is to allow, when it goes to voicemail, you have one relocation option. It'd be like press 0, for after hours emergency response, which I believe is what's on the phone now, and it goes to Simrac. When that happens, they answer the phone, 911 recorded line. People freak out.
Yeah.
They don't understand that it's a call center that handles every single call. Emergency calls, from fire, police, a flooded street, that's just their call center, that's what they do. But it's created some concern, as all of us growing up, you don't call 911 unless it's emergency.
Exactly.
So for us to sit there now and tell people, okay, you got dirty water, or you need your meter changed, or you need a final reading, call 911 after hours. It doesn't sit well with people, and it doesn't sit well with me. So I think, as you guys had mentioned, the best option is to go with a call center. It's unfortunate that basically we have to pay twice. We'll still have to keep the Simrac.
Do you pay for Simrac?
There is some type of fee. I don't know how it's worked.
'Cause we don't.
Okay.
I know, because John asked me that. And, no, we don't pay any kind of fee towards them, and,
Yeah. I have yet to speak to the town manager to find out how it is. I believe it's probably rolled into the indirect cost somehow.
okay.
I don't see a call center that large and that, high-tech being free for
Yeah.
communities,
Right.
to
I
use.
wonder
There's gotta be some
if
cost.
there's any plans or thoughts to upgrade the town phone system with the new town hall going in with any part of that project.
It's possible
Maybe
the
we could
server
talk to
is
Michael
there.
or throw that out there somehow.
Right,
As long as you're building a whole new town center, let's update the antiquated phone system.
right. Yeah, there's definitely limitations that we see with the phone system. Unfortunately, a lot of times it doesn't work, and that's because we're linked to town hall.
Yeah.
We get multiple calls down here that you pick up and there's nobody on the other end, you know, or we can hear them and they can't hear us. You know, sometimes we call the dial out and the call will just drop off. You know, so it definitely needs some work. I think a lot of it hinges from the system that's at town hall.
And that's gotta be the same for every town department, as that
Everybody that's linked with the
has
server.
to deal with
yeah.
calls coming in,
Right.
so that wouldn't shock me at all if they've already thought about updating that with this whole hall project.
I would hope
actually.
so. You know, even if we have to pay our portion because we have the link in the remote server
Yeah.
down here, that's perfectly fine.
That's
I
fine,
mean,
that's
you know,
no problem.
it's time to move up. But yeah, so John was definitely going to work on that. He couldn't be here tonight. I know he wanted to speak a little bit about that. So I'm sure he'll get those.
Well, tell them to keep on contact, I mean, we've been in contact with him
Okay.
by email
Yeah.
and text and stuff like that, and I think he's on the right track, so.
Yeah, we definitely want to execute it as quickly
Yep.
as possible.
Right,
Yep. And we'll go from there. But that's about all I have.
okay.
Too much. The meeting minutes should be
Yeah,
in there
supposed
from
to
Yep.
be around
2
these.
meeting
Yep.
minutes ago. I did send them to you
You
guys.
sent it to us, yep.
Yep.
We did make a few edits to them. John edited the meeting that he was here. I did the one prior to that. There was some typographical errors, and we add a little bit more information.
Are these the same, what you emailed us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So we need to do a separate motion for each one?
Yep,
Yes.
Okay. I motion to approve the minutes of the Water Sewer Commission meeting for, this one first. I move to approve the minutes for the September 28th, 2021 Board of Water Sewer Commissioners meeting.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now I move to approve the minutes of the October 12th, 2021 Board of Water Sewer Commissioners meeting.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
That was easy enough. Oops.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns out there in
The
telephone land?
The music playing in the background, so that doesn't mean we have any participants, which is good. It seems we couldn't get the phone to work.
Where's Peter? Well, without further ado, your favorite motion?
Next meeting, when is that?
So I think we had said it was like the
already
23rd or something like
I
that?
believe.
23rd?
Third is what you.
I believe it was 23rd.
Okay. We good?
Yep.
All right, I move to adjourn our meeting.
I second
Good night,
that.
everybody.
All in favor? Aye. Good night. Thank you very
everybody.
much.